All right, legends, let's get straight into it. Welcome, Braden Cox.
Oh, g'day, Mason. How's everything going, mate? Now, let's jump...
Don't give a shit. You're like, let's get into it. I don't care about your day.
100%. Now, let's jump into it because this one had the internet just, we almost had to call them up and say, shut it down because it was on fire. Obviously, Jared Waitley coming out publicly and stating that Brian Myers had the same field scanning ability as Lionel Messi.
Lionel Messi?
Yeah, the internet was in uproar because of the hot takes straight from Jared Waitley's mouth. Only thing is that he actually didn't say it. Someone has made a graphic saying...
Someone's come to the realization you can make a graphic that looks exactly like something Fox Footy would put out there, and then people just assume it's truth.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It does shine a light on some of that stuff that it's very easy to trick the general public. But
everything I read on Twitter I thought was true, though.
Yeah. Jared... I don't think he knows much about the internet, evidently, given his response was, I didn't say this. This needs to be removed immediately. Hashtag fake news, which is...
Hashtag fake news!
Which isn't the route you really want to go down.
I don't think that's the right hashtag, Jared. Sorry.
Like a little tip from people that use the internet. You can't really tell people what to do on there because it only makes everything worse. So someone, from the office, maybe tap him on the shoulder, Mr. Waitley. Just let it pass. That's the tip. Let it pass.
Turn at some point.
No. He doubled down.
He
tripled down.
He
quadrupled down.
What?
He was just, a dog with a bone. Take this thing down, which, it's led to what could be described as one of the great football memes.
The meme now becomes Jared reacting to the meme of what's been created.
100%. This will be around for the next decade. It's very, it's not quite up there with Brett Kirk intro on Channel 7.
Oh my gosh, how wild is that? I still to this day am going like, what in the world happened?
Yeah, it was pretty bizarre, but it's, it's on, the same plane. It's getting into that kind of territory.
Yeah.
But it was delicious. Everyone fed on it for about a week, and Grind was actually asked about it post-game.
Oh gosh,
whether
he's dragged into it.
Yeah, whether he came in his Lionel Messi Argentina shirt and stuff like that.
I will say this, we are friends and we do appreciate and love Jared Waitley, but
of course.
Yeah, maybe just get a little help on the Twitter scheme stuff,
It was, I checked it and I double checked it and I was like, it's got to be a meme Waitley account. Like it can't be a legitimate response. But
anyone can buy a blue tick nowadays, so you just got to double check those things. Well, we're going to my clanger now. Brisbane, big game on the weekend, and before they played Melbourne over at the MCG, there was a player, Zach Bailey, decided, hey, this whole bouncing thing, why can't umpires get it right? It's not that hard, right?
Not that hard.
Not that hard. Rolls into the middle of the footy, tries to bounce it, and about knocks himself unconscious. And he came to realize very quickly, through the hardest way possible, that it's not that easy to actually bounce a ball. And it made me think, 24 hours later, essentially, right? Saturday afternoon, and I go into the pregame center bounce, and you get the umpires that bounce the ball before the game to get a bit used to how high they bounce it and everything else. I think they're about 1 for 6 of getting it inside the circle. And I thought before I go, this is going to be a rough day. Oh, man, the Collingwood faithful are going to be booing every single center bounce here. It's going to be rough on Brett's 500th. But luckily, they got quite a few right. But I will say one thing I thought was hilarious. As soon as one drop of rain was felt, you best believe it was ball up central, baby. Ain't no bouncing from then on.
It's like when tradies go to work and they're like, is that rain? But knock off. We can't work in these conditions. But yeah, he copped it right to the face. Was reacting pretty hard. I think players need to be more aware that the cameras are on pre-game and they're looking for content.
Especially center circle.
We saw it with Matthew Rowell earlier in the year, eating the grass.
Oh, Matthew Cowell.
Now, now he's in all of the highlights reels for the wrong reasons.
Well, we're getting into the games. There's plenty to talk about this week. Sydney versus the Bulldogs, massive Thursday night thriller.
And we got some good Thursday, Friday night games. They're back in a big way. Paps kicked 4, kicked the game winner. Massive game for Sydney, but I felt more like it was a dropped opportunity for the Dogs. They were really up and about, right in the race. They've still got a fairly decent run home, but they're coming so close and then just coming up short in all of these games. And they've lost, I think, 3 of the last 5. So they could have really locked away one of those top 8 spots. But all those teams that are in and around the 8 don't really want it.
Oh.
We got to get into Longmire's 300. I think pretty much every highlight I saw from this game was the walk-off. And they're like trying to cheer Longmire off. They're trying to get him up. They're like, do the guard of honor. They're all grabbing him and pointing at him. Got a big beam and smile on his face. Not too often you see that from the horse.
I find that kind of interesting because I feel as though some of the stories that have been told to me about that man, and I'm a big fan of him, but he apparently was quite stern and gave a hell of a spray back in the day. But looking at that vision, I'm like, maybe he softened up, like maybe he's just a bit more loving, a bit more caring. And he's buying into this new age of how to take care of your players and be a coach. And it was awesome. It was great to see him on his 300th walk out and all the players get around him and, just patting him on top of the head and everything else. It was such a feel good moment for him and an amazing accomplishment for himself.
He was happy there for a moment. I don't think he'll be happy with Rampy's little hit off the ball, cop 2 weeks. It was a difficult one because, I don't know, it's up in the air for me if he was kind of going up to block and then it just got unfortunate. 2 weeks, big penalty, but you just got to cop it when you're going up there and you're doing something that you didn't need to do.
You got to be aware of what you're doing off ball because everything is caught on camera and they have an extra umpire out there in the games. So you best believe there's a few more eyes having looks for things that are happening away from the actual play.
Now, of course, that keeps Sydney well and truly in the race. Yep. I just don't know if they got the form. Geelong's coming good after a slow start, and they were in the grand final, obviously, alongside Sydney. Sydney just not really getting the motor running. Most of these, they kind of just get across the line. There's been a few of these throughout the year. We can't forget the North Melbourne fiasco with the interchange infringement. They could be way further down the ladder if not for that.
Games like this can be a massive, momentum changer for them. Like whenever you get a tight game, you show you can be able to win those and you get a bit of confidence going then. Who knows? You might be able to build off it and get into the finals.
The Melbourne Lions game
Friday
was
night.
Melbourne getting across the line by 1 single point, and there was so many stories in the lead up to this game and then during the game. After the game, obviously, the last time they versed each other, lights out at the Gabba. And it was very much the same story. But last time they could blame it on the lights. The lights went out. They came back. Melbourne had already been on the ground warming up and they kind of almost ran over the top of them. But the Lions held on. At the Fortress. But let's jump to the lead into this game. Obviously, great mate of ours, great mate of the podcast, Brodie Grundy, out of the team, which is big news. It kind of sent shockwaves through, the AFL supporters. Dropped for the game, playing back in the VFL. What we hear is to find goal kicking form. Now, a lot of Bucks came out and said he's not a forward. He'll never be a forward. So it's very interesting to see how this balance is going to pan out. Going forward.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I was quite sad to hear that he got dropped for the weekend, and they kind of had this idea whenever he moved over there to play the 2-ruck system, similar to myself and Darcy Cameron. That were playing before a few injuries back and forth throughout the year. But it's Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy are legitimate AFL rucks, and they've proved themselves over time and time again. And they had this idea of being able to play one forward and one in the ruck and. I think they're just sitting there going, okay, we're pretty much in finals, right on the verge of being able to lock in that final spot. Maybe try some other different things to see kind of what our best football is, and they're going to try this with Brodie out to try to get him some forward time in the VFL. And unfortunately for him, there was not an actual VFL game. They did have a scratch match. But there wasn't an actual VFL game for him to get a full game under him with a full side. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this one pans out. I'm not too sure, but mad love for the Gruns, mad love for the Grundy. And I'll just hope he's back out there, where he deserves to be on AFL level.
And he handled it really well. They caught up with him post-game and he said, it's my job. I'm a professional.
Good on him for doing the interview too, because that's not easy to do.
Yeah, and so...
A lot of people just walk away and say, I'm not talking to you.
No doubt he'll be back. He works harder than anyone. We've talked about it multiple times on the podcast. Obviously, Melbourne was trying to replicate what Gawn and Luke Jackson had. Luke Jackson wanted to go home, went back to Fremantle. It's a bit of a different type though. Luke Jackson is a bit more of a forward, very nimble. But obviously it hasn't been working for them, the combo that they have right now. And what added to kind of the story was Gawn came out and absolutely dominated. He was the leading disposal getter as a ruckman, 29 touches, kicked the goal, 7 tackles, 39 hitouts, 10 clearances. 92% game time.
No, that's the thing that's interesting. 92% game time. I'll be interested to see if that's sustainable for him. It's a lot of time on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Brody and him will probably split and rock 50-50, 60-40, wherever it is. And now that he's going essentially 100% into the rock and they don't have anyone to back him up really, he's going straight in there and they're going to keep his time off the ground to a very minimum.
Talk to us about that. So would you play anywhere near 90% just out there grinding in the ruck? How hard is it? Going contest to contest all night, getting banged up. You got to be down the line. You get knees. You're copping it all.
You best believe every single opposition that's going up against Melbourne now is targeting Max Gawn, knowing that he's going to have to play full-time in rock, knowing that he's got not the greatest probably backup that he did have in Brody Grundy. You'd be targeting him. You'd be sitting there every single game. His face would be on the whiteboard before you run out and say, I want every single player to hit this man at least once in the game. It's the truth. Why? Because you know that 92% game time is going to wear his ass down. He's a great runner. Like, he's a hell of a lot better runner than I am. I've seen it on the field. I've seen him, dart off and me chasing ass after him. But to be able to sit there and get hit every single time, it's the most frustrating thing. You just get hit over and over again by all the smaller guys on the field and not be able to get momentum in your run. And it takes a toll on you. And then it might mean you lose a few hitouts, or you might not be able to get down line for a few contests. And that's what teams are going to look to do in the future whenever Brody's not in the team.
It's the way it is. It is what being a ruckman is. You got to be there. You got to be down the line, and everyone's just driving knees into you, taking speckies on you. It's not very glamorous.
So glamorous, doesn't it?
It's not very glamorous, but he is one of the best to do it. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. And
he's done it before. He's handled it before. So it'll be it's just going to be a unique, I think, time of 4 or 5 weeks. Kind of see them going into finals. What it's going to be like for them as far as what they think their best team on the track is going to be.
And you can understand why they did it now, because it's kind of the last chance to make a change now. And see how it goes in the lead up to finals, because you don't want to be tinkering with the team too much when it gets that late in the run to finals. So we'll just watch this space, see how that pans out. Now, Brisbane, on the other hand, storylines in storylines. So Brisbane, everyone on the planet Earth knows that they're having this drama at the G. They just can't seem to get the wins there, and it for all money looked over.
I turned it off at 3/4 time. I went to bed. We had a game the next day. I was like, it's just over. Like they're up by about 30 points. I think they'll finish this and be fine. Next thing I'll wake up to 1 point win by Melbourne. I was like, what the hell happened?
At 3/4 time, they probably could have been a little bit further ahead, but missed a couple, and they were up by 3 goals, 3. So you're like, that's a bit. That's enough almost. But in the last quarter, they kicked 1-1 to Melbourne's 4 goals, 5. And the star of the game, Jake Melksham.
Yeah.
Now, Melksham started the game pretty well, but just wasn't putting them away. Like he couldn't get them through the big sticks. It just looked like it wasn't going to fall into place for him. Then in the last couple of minutes of the match, gets one out wide, kicks a goal from the boundary, and then obviously takes the mark, kicks the match winner. And yeah, it's great to see from him because he's been in and out of the side, had the drama with Big Stephen May. It was great to see him slot the winner and all the boys get around it.
It's funny whenever you hit a match winner, people tend to forget what you did the rest of the game. Everyone's just lauding you to be the next greatest thing that's ever happened, So it's it's great for him. Congratulations to him. Like it's an amazing feeling, I'm sure, to be able to get your team over the line with a massive kick like that. And it kind of just proves, I think in this, like a 1-point win proves that every single point matters. Like, you look at the fact that they kicked 4-5 in the last quarter, and it's like, if you kick 4-2, you still lose that game. 4-3, you still lose that game. But the fact that you're even getting the ball to that position to be able to even kick a point, it seems like frustrating, don't get me wrong, but every single point counts whenever you're in a bit of a comeback whenever it comes to that fourth quarter.
And you bet your ass Brisbane's looking back and thinking every point that they didn't kick, every missed goal, every missed opportunity, it gets like put under the microscope, and they'll probably be watching some tape throughout the week. That's for damn sure. Well, one player, we talked about Melksham being celebrated, and he actually did take a really pivotal mark. Kind of 2v1 on the wing and got the hands moving. That was he had a lot of moments in the last quarter, but his teammate, Christian Petrarca, he's just had this resurgence moving forward out of the midfield, trying to get that balance right. Well, lucky for him, he still had high 20 disposals, but he kicked 4 goals, 2, and just looks a different player.
Started the game off real strong. Had 2 goals pretty quick, like back to back. And I was like, shit, this guy could kick 10. I was like,
it was crazy. I went for a walk down the street to get dinner and I was like, I updated on the app. It's like, oh, he kicked a goal like straight away. Wow, geez, that's crazy. Refresh. Oh, he's kicked another goal. It's like, he's going to town. But
wouldn't believe he got into his opposition a bit after he kicked the goal too.
Loves it. Loves a bit of talk. Loves a bit of talk. 26 touches, 4 goals too. Crazy game. Your boy Pickett. Saw your tweet. I reckon you got tweets just sitting in the drafts waiting for him to
It's
go
actually
through.
a copy and paste scenario.
3 goals for Pickett. It's good to see him back up and about. And now I just wanted to shine a little bit of a light, just a little torch on Jasper Fletcher.
Yeah.
Because this kid's got some tricks for Brisbane. Like, it was a loss, but there was a fair amount of positives to take out of it. It was just they just couldn't get it done in the last quarter. But the first 3 were great. This Jasper Fletcher, there was a moment where he ran back with the fly. For all money, it was going to be a Melbourne mark, and they were out on the wing.
Yeah.
He sprints, jumps up, back with the flight, mark over the head, pushes the opponent off, runs inside 50 and kicks a goal on the run. And you're like veterans would struggle to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where their improvement's coming from. And that's where their improvement's going to see them stay successful for years to come because they've got all these kids coming through that are great.
Yeah. They got to, they would be playing finals at the Fortress. Maybe that's the important thing.
That's the thing. If they got a top 2 slot,
Yeah.
it's basically guaranteed grand final.
Yeah. Well, we're moving to the next game. We got Suns versus Suns versus Saints.
I thought it was Suns v Stinkers. That was pretty much what it was, Mace.
Well, it was, it's a match. Obviously, everyone knows what's happened during the week with Stewie Doo getting sacked and the new coach, Stephen King, coming in. And the Suns win over the Saints, who are top 8. Like, everyone thought maybe the Suns would just fall over, right?
Not you.
No, I've been on the Suns train choo-choo since the beginning, baby. Woo! And I'm telling you, man, I still think it. Still think they're going to make the 8. Still got hope.
It's insane that they're a game outside the 8.
They're like what, 5 to 12 right now is maybe 1 game apart, I feel like.
I wonder if they assumed that they were going to lose this one. If it was going to be one of those, Stewie Jew could have just about to flick the coin. I just want to say on behalf of Stuart Jew, fuck you guys. Because I looked at that and I was like, because everyone's like, oh, you get the little sugar hit and stuff. But I'm like, come on, that's put in that effort for your coach last week and he's still there. But,
this is, Damien Hardwick, whenever he decided to stop, they won a few games after he left. So maybe this is the trend whenever the coach leaves, you get a few wins on the board. Something that changes, just a bit of a fresh air, fresh breath, and you just have a bit of, release of shackles for the next game.
Well, you say that because, there is some evidence of that as well. Someone like Rory Atkins I look at that was pretty much out of the side, playing VFL. He would come in and play as the sub. They'd give him a couple of chances here and there, and they just didn't seem to be getting the best out of him. And, I don't know if he was on the same page or what it was that was keeping him out of the side. And then first game in, without Stuart Jew at the helm, and he comes out and has 32 touches, kicks 2 goals, 700 meters gained. He can play footy. So it's someone like that it's very, you don't know any of the intricacies or the ins and outs of anything, club, but you never know if it's just a moment of go out there and enjoy a bit of your footy and take away some of the game plan and, strip it back a bit to basics and see how they go. Because it does seem to be a bit of a trend. I think it's half or a bit over half that end up getting a win in their next game, which is probably lower than everyone would expect because everyone's always like,
I think you're second to coach, everything's gone to shit.
Yeah, but very interesting. I did feel for Dewey. That clip is always in my head from the documentary where he's like, how about we have a fucking go?
Oh. That was an absolute crack.
Oh, it's so good.
Great halftime spray.
That sticks in my head for most of these times. Ross Lyon, not happy, and understandably, I reckon this has got to be their worst loss for the season. Bad on many levels. One, they just had their coach sacked, and you come out and you lose quite convincingly to them. 2, you only scored 51. That's pretty damn low score, mate. So I don't know if you know that.
It's not great. It's not great, but Ross ended up in the post-match conference. He even said they were a fumbling, stumbling mess.
Which is, I think,
It's not
pretty
adjectives you want.
I think it's pretty kind. That's the G-rated version for Ross. I think the players are going to get the X-rated version after that. X-rated, that's not nudity. That's the other stuff. And Ben King didn't even manage to kick a goal on the game. Obviously subbed out of last week.
Bit of questions around him last week, yeah.
Came in and didn't kick a goal in their win. So, it could have been worse if he had got up and running, but obviously, you did say they're going to make the 8, so
I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
We're still on Suns watch. Not, Galileo was on Suns watch and he went blind. So, let's keep it.
Get a little history lesson for the kids in the car.
Keep a little lid on it. But, we're happy for the Suns. Bit upset for Stewie Jew. That's a bit rough. He wouldn't be laughing it up, I'm sure. But let's jump into the next game because, oh my goodness.
I don't think many people saw this one coming.
Well, Port did have some outs. I just want to say that first because I want to give all, props to Carlton. So I'll get that one out of the way. Port Adelaide had a few outs, but they went down to Carlton in, the most convincing fashion. Carlton annihilated Port Adelaide, top to bottom, and that was without Harry Mackay, I'll go and say, who unfortunately looks like he's out for the rest of the season with a bit of a knee injury. He's got to go in and get an arthroscope and all cleaned up and stuff. Never good. But, Carlton just kept on rolling, Mace.
And I think the lid is off at Carlton, I reckon. I mean, I was playing golf over the weekend. There's a few Carlton fans that are walking the other way on the other golf. They're talking shit to me, just like giving me absolute stick, saying, "Oh, Carlton's wearing the flag.
That's how you know they're back.
Fucking sucks. Collingwood's fit." Going at me. I'm just like sitting there casually walking on a golf course, having a nice Sunday afternoon.
Fellas, keep it down.
Oh, dude, Carlton fans, chill. Just let me have a nice hit of the ball without someone screaming in my backswing.
Obviously not a private course, Mace. Or?
No, I'm not that wealthy, mate.
But massive,
take invites, though.
Massive win, 122 to 72. Silvani came out strong. I've been on the Silvani train because for me, I don't understand it, and someone needs to explain it to me how he's always up on, the trading block for Carlton when he's, he bleeds blue and white and his father's been playing for him and he's, he goes out there and he gives 110% per week when a lot of his teammates weren't giving 110% per week. He came out, kicked 4 goals, really got him up and running. Motlop didn't even know he was playing.
Jeez.
Just before the game, late call up, came out and kicked 4 and just, just an excitement machine. Yeah. Some of his crumbing was next level. Next level. He was just nibbling them. But those two, you think the big guys are going to, run the show when you're talking about 122 points scored. Yeah. But Silvani and Motlop getting it done. Curnow kicked 3. And, they're just... For all the shit that was talked about them, this little block has put them right back in it.
Funny how things change, isn't it?
They're 1 game out of the 8. I feel this is cooked because I'm going to go through every game and say, oh, this team's just 1 game out of the 8 because there's about fucking 17 teams that are 1 game out of the 8, Mace. And it's just another one. Carlton got this momentum. I'm going to say it later on, but some of these teams that are coming into, we were saying earlier, the teams that were 5th to 8, they're not going to do anything. Like, what's the point? It's going to be, the top 4. Because they've got that break points-wise on the rest of the competition. Yeah. But these teams that are coming home late and coming home strong, they're tying together groups of wins. We're looking at Carlton. We're looking at GWS. We're looking at Geelong. They're going to have all the momentum. And the teams that are currently sitting 6, 7, 8, you got your Saints, Essendon and Bulldogs, look to be fading. So if these teams can pop up into those slots, it's going to be a dangerous finals campaign because I feel like any of those teams can win. It's Geelong. Oh, my goodness.
We've been talking about it for a while. If Geelong gets on their horse and keeps going, then they're going to be a threat come September. There's no doubt about that. But I think these next 5 kind of rounds, obviously you settle out who the 8's going to be, but also in that 8, if you can get a bit of momentum going into it, I mean, you can sit there and be holding up with the top, top teams in there. So it's going to be very important for that. We talked about that 5 to like 12, to be able to get those wins on the board. And if you can get consistent like 5 wins in a row throughout this little time period, you're a serious threat. You're a real serious threat.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. So let's jump into that Geelong game because they flogged Essendon. Now, probably thought they would get the win, right? Down at GMHBA, you probably expect Geelong to win most of those games, right? Now, Essendon have had a real strong showing, and only last week we were singing their praises, and this is the swings and roundabouts of these competitions these days, Mace, because one week you're saying they're going to win the flag, next week they're not going to make the 8. It's been that crazy. Now, the Twins coming up against Cup. Chris went, full hippie mode during the 2020 hub campaign.
Full beard.
He's like
full beard.
I'm surprised he doesn't rock up in thongs and he's Havaianas.
He's embraced the Geelong lifestyle.
Yeah, he has embraced
real
the Geelong
surf coast man.
And now, obviously, Brad left the system, came back in, versed each other. Brad said it was easily the hardest game, the hardest opposition they've versed all year.
Huge statement.
And I mean, the scoreboard suggests that wasn't a lie. Geelong are well and truly back, and they're straight back up into 5th spot. So they just leapfrogged a whole bunch of teams. And, same old names, a couple of them here, but Hawkins getting the job done, kicking 5. What's our Hawkins noise?
Hawk.
I get it. That's pretty good.
There you go.
I was thinking because it's the tomahawk. Chop, 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 chop wood. He's got the tomahawk out. He's chopping up all the wood. Well, he was chopping up the defense. They're kicking 5. Stengel's back. He bounced back last week, got him into a bit of form, and now he's kicked another 3 this week. Yep. And it was good to see Jeremy Cameron.
Jez a watch.
Jez was back. Could have had a real day out, but I feel like he's just warming up.
Yeah.
He's just warming
Boys' finals is pretty close. I'll start really getting the furnace going.
When a fire starts to burn, Mason, he always does post his
when fire starts to burn. I hope everyone listening is thinking the same song.
And then we got, obviously Lionel Messi just running around doing messy things.
Just doing messy things. Well, it's interesting. And one thing that came out of this I found really unique, and there's a bit of media around this. Now, Essendon captain Zach Merritt, right? You've just got thumped by decent shellacking. You're at GMHBA. He's playing his 200th game. Not a great experience to get offered to get chaired off, right? You're at opposition stadium, not as many fans. It's your 200th, which is a huge accomplishment. I think you should get chaired off at 200. But after getting absolutely smacked like that, you'd be in such a shit mood that to get chaired off, you wouldn't even want it. No. You just wouldn't even. You'd be sitting there going, okay, get me on your shoulders for the half second. I'm getting down. We're jogging off this field.
I think it's like a half-assed guard of honor with a little charity wave. That's what I'd be going for. Just like a.
Jeez, I felt for him. It's just like it'd be so. Honestly, the right word's embarrassing, but like you wouldn't be excited for it. Let's just say that.
No, yeah, and the photo, log on to Getty Images to get your photo to have it big framed up. You're probably not really beam and smile or anything like that.
Oh, what happened on your 200th? You're like, I'd rather not say.
Oh man, yeah, but that did open up. There was a fair few, guards of honor throughout the weekend. I think I heard Bristle BT saying that not a big fan of the guard of honor, and obviously our good mate Kane Corns not a big fan either.
Yeah.
When do you whip out these guards of honor? What are there's got to be some rules, some regulations around guards of honor. So 50 games, guard of honor?
Nah. Not 50 games. I think you get a little mention on the paper you run through. Yeah, on the banner. Sorry. The tissue paper you run through. It's like the banner. Yeah. The Eric banner.
That's the little one down the bottom. It's like a big message, and it's like, oh yeah, and
it's
this
like
guy.
A small hashtag, a small hashtag like, Bowman Crew's 50th.
Well, last week you put out there that you're a big fan of the 50s.
I think you should acknowledge them as a team. I don't think you need to acknowledge him probably in the grand scheme of the game, if that makes sense. Like after, I don't think you need to make a big hoo-ha about it, but
100 games.
100 games, not a chair off, but maybe just like a bit of a clap off or something, like your team, not both teams, but maybe your team just like claps you off like, well done, mate, right?
When they meet at the top of the race. And
they meet at the top of the race, like you're the first that goes down and like, maybe the audience all claps you off, right? So you get acknowledgement, but it's not over the top, right? 150, probably nothing.
I'm not big on 50s.
Yeah, 50's not as big. 200, a centuries, big fan of. I think you should get chaired off at 200. 200 is a pretty phenomenal career, I feel like. And, people like Scott Pendlebury are really screwing that over because, whenever you get 200 and you've got a guy that's like going to play 500, I feel like it just makes it really null and void.
Yeah.
So now 200, 300. Now you get to the 354. Like 4, I don't know what's above a chair off, but I feel like at 400, we should do something more than just chairing someone off.
Yeah, I think everyone stops. You get the umpire's guard, you get both teams, you get maybe you add the chair on top of that. Maybe you get someone comes out and gives you like a token gift or something.
Yeah, maybe you know what you should do. You know, like Jewish weddings, they get people on an actual chair and they hold like the things and they like, do this song. Maybe it's that.
And you smash a plate.
And you smash a plate, as you go down. Maybe that's the way to celebrate 400.
Yeah, we're stealing ideas.
Just throwing ideas out there, okay? Scott, just throwing ideas out there.
See, I think 350 is fair enough to get. I think anything over 300, any milestone after that, you get the full celebrate.
I almost think that's still a clap. Like 400, like unreal. Everyone should be cheering off 400. 500, Brett Roseby over the weekend as an umpire. Both teams acknowledge that, cheer him off. I think that's important.
Who chairs off a 7-foot tall guy?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it'd be like probably if DC and like Billy Frampton are playing, probably them too.
Yeah, but
Maybe
if
like
you
Darcy
picked
Moore or
a
something,
ruck,
you'd have to pick another big.
And you're the other ruck, then you're looking for the other big. So it's like
nothing
forward.
would make me happier if, Jamie Elliott and Bobby tried to chair me off. I mean, it'd be a hell of a sight. Essentially, it'd just be me sitting on their shoulders with my feet touching the ground.
Yeah, your legs would hit the floor. That's good. Let's jump into this Adelaide GWS game because I was frothing. I sent you a message straight away after the game.
The Giants. Did you hear the big sound?
Never doubt the motherfucking Giants because I've been on them since. I'm going to have to go back and cut my own highlight here, mates, because I've been on them since the start of the season. But they are making an absolute run and none bigger. This is Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. We've also been saying all year that Adelaide is damn hard to beat in Adelaide, and that's exactly what the Giants did with a very impressive last quarter run. Few incidents out of the game. I just wanted to say, Sam Taylor, mate.
Huge pump up.
That is the craziest game that he's been doing it all year, but it was just, he's playing on Tex. Tex has just been on fire lately.
Tex at home loves that.
Kept him relatively quiet. He kicked 2, but didn't get a touch in the second half, which is crazy. But I just think it was the desperation from Sam Taylor. Every time it was like, they've actually beaten him here and they're out the back. He gets a hand in or he did
somehow got a fingernail in or something like that.
And they're the guys that you love. I think of
John Noble
on your team.
Even Darcy Moore, like he's had like 2 rundowns in the goal square this year. One on Bontempelli and the other one on Ollie Henry. And it just looks like an absolute easy out the back goal, and somehow he's able to tackle them for holding the ball.
Those guys, it was like Alir saved a couple on the line that have like won games and stuff like that. Like all these guys that, they fight tooth and nail. They don't get the praise that the forwards get because it's easy to go like goal tally. There they are right there. But like it must be cool within that like defenders fraternity that they get around each other. And it's like, you saved that one. We were stingy this game. We kept them to 57 at Adelaide Oval. Yeah. They've got one of the most potent attacks in the AFL and they kept them to 57 at their home ground.
Impressive.
It's crazy.
I think Tex kicked 60 points on his own a few rounds before that. He kicked 10. Oh, it might have been more than that. It was probably 10 something else. He kicked 10 goals at Adelaide Oval, so he would have beat their whole team score for the day.
It was nuts. And now there was a kind of a weird point that happened during the game. Rochelle got, a bit like agitated. They got under his skin, got up, a few jumpery punches, and then, someone came over and he full blown just like swung a punch
after it, one guy, and then he goes back for the second and full swings at him.
And that, changed basically the momentum in the game. Adelaide were running into goal and the free kick, they got called back. And it was, it kind of halted momentum. He looked just a bit frazzled. He got pulled off the ground. You get the talking to.
Bit of a chat from the head coach.
You'd be so in your head. Have you had a moment where it's like you did something, even if it was not as blatant as that, but you clip someone or something and it's in your mind of like, oh God, I could be missing next week. Does that play on you?
Oh, yeah. People, what's funny is players will tell you that. So if you hit someone or you get tackled or you tackle someone hard, whatever it is, opposition will come up to you and say that was a week.
Yeah.
They try to get in your head. They try to really get into your brain. I'm like, first of all, I don't tackle anyone. So that's not an issue. I will say the one time that comes to mind is 2018, first game of the season. I think it was like raining. We're playing Hawthorn. I had like one touch on the day and got suspended. And I just signed a 3-year deal with the club. Like,
that's fine.
So everyone was like, we just signed 3 years for this idiot. And he's literally suspended himself for two games and one touch in his first outing in his new contract. And I think whenever I clipped him, it was just a comedy of errors. Like the ball got kicked in. I didn't mark it, tried to chase back after it. And then Tom Phillips tried to pick it up and then he bobbles it. And then the other guy tries to get it. And then I end up clipping him as he's trying to like come through to tackle Tom Phillips. And I knew as soon as I hit him quite high. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be playing next week. Well, probably because I only had one touch, but also because I literally tried to knock a guy out accidentally. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily play on your mind, but like the people will try to get in your head with it for sure.
It would be, I'd be frazzled.
But then it's like, well, I got nothing to lose because you can't get kicked out of a game. There's no red card for AFL. So it's like, well, you still got to play the rest of it. So, move on to the next thing.
Do you have, we always talk about like athletes have these kind of mindfulness coaches and things like that, sports psychs and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have something that you can say in your head to reset yourself if it's not going your way? Or do you just go into a big
out to our
dark
sports
black hole?
psychologist, first of all. I just want to start this off.
Do you go into just a big dark black hole of God, I'm shit. Why am I out here? Or do you have something to fix it?
No, I'm pretty easy. Like I'll forget things pretty quickly, I'd say. Like one thing I do that's consistent is I actually sit next to the coach. So I actually sit next to Craig McRae, like every time I come off, and it's a bit of like a ritual of mine. I don't know why.
Just eavesdropping on it?
But no, we just chat back and forth of like what's going on in the game, what we need to tell. Because a lot of times like, I'll go back into the ruck and I essentially have to be told the messages to go back into the midfield at the next center bounce to tell him what we're going to do. So if we change game plan, whatever it might be. So that's kind of interesting, but just to hear him and the way he's like talking to the coaches on the phone and everything else, like it kind of gets me back in the game of knowing exactly what's happening on the field and what we need to maybe manipulate or change. Besides kind of being in the corner, like I used to kind of sit by myself because I was a little bit shit scared of probably Bucks and what he would say on the phone. So I tried to stay as far away from the phone as possible. But no, I used to probably be a bit more quieter. I used to sit next to Max and, and would just, just have like a minute of just not saying anything. And I think I still somewhat do that where once you come off, it's like, you need to give me 30 seconds. Let me get a drink of water. Let me catch my breath. And then I can kind of dissect the information that's given to me. Like if you try to get me as soon as I come off, like I'm in this rage of like pissed off with the play that just happened. I'm trying to do this and that while I'm on the bench to try to refuel to get back out there. There's just a lot going on where if you give that 10, 15 seconds to like get settled and then give an information message, I think it gets through a lot better. Do
you like having Fly down on the bench? Is it a bit of a different dynamic? Is it just the quick feedback?
I think he's constantly on the headset to the boys upstairs, right? So everyone that's upstairs in the box, he's going back and forth. But I enjoy it. There's not many. There's more coaches, I guess, now that do it a bit more now. But yeah, I don't know. You feel a bit more connected to the coaching staff because a lot of times you're getting a phone call and it's like someone telling you something rather than him being like, "Hey, it's all good. Like next one, move on." Whatever it might be, and you get that reassurance from a coach, like in like prime time right in your face. So that's, I think, a bit more impactful than kind of getting it through the phone, which is good. So, I can even think back to the Adelaide game. There was one situation at the very end of the game where it was a D50 stoppage for us. I was playing forward and I had to go up another man to the person that was just sitting outside 50 and I'm sitting there and, I'm like jogging back and I can hear Fly screaming behind me like, "Oh, leave your man to go to that other man." And like, if he wasn't on the bench, I wouldn't hear that and we probably wouldn't have got executed that. But because he's there and he sees it and he goes, "Oh, no, like go out of your role to make sure you cover that one because that one's more important on the time frame of the game because it was at the very end." And then you end up punching it out of bounds, we get another stoppage. So there's little things like that, like as a head coach being on the ground, like you can actually get that direct instant feedback to your players whenever you're on the bench.
And it just shows the level of trust that he's got with his other coaches to, keep an eye on the game from up high.
Yeah.
While he's down there doing all the, head over the pill stuff. North v Hawthorn. Now, on paper, not a very good game.
Yeah.
Now, in reality,
40 points.
Also a terrible game. It's just a real bad game. Not very great skills. But we know they're developing teams, Mace. But you got to be. This is an extremely disappointing result for North, not only, on the scoreboard, but the amount of players that they lost in this game is, this is
West Coast Eagle-like.
We're talking, it's almost half the squad. Zurhaar ankle, Wardlaw hamstring, Coleman Jones concussion.
Yeah.
Shields ankle and Archer hamstring.
Jeez.
And they're a lot of like Wardlaw especially, up and coming player. Like a couple of leaders in there. Like it's a sprinkling of everyone that you didn't want to lose. Like you don't want to lose any players, but like there's leaders, there's like young kids coming through. Very painful game for the North Melbourne Football Club. Flip side, great win for Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about
Hawthorn's got a few wins on the board. Telling you,
they're up and down, but they've seen a fair bit of up, which is all you want to see. A bit of development. It was an interesting situation throughout the game. Eddie Ford.
This is good.
Young Eddie Ford.
Yeah.
Man, I've heard numerous occasions that he's a bit of a funny bloke now. There was a moment between him and James Sicily where he went up and he was kind of counting disposals and going like, I got one over there, you got one over there. Maybe we're about even, or maybe you're a bit ahead. Just a bit of banter with the captain of the other team.
That's good value.
Imagine if you were in your first game and you just walked up to Luke Hodge and you're like, oh, mate, like, how many taps have I got? How many touches have you got?
It'd be a real, who are you? That's what Luke Hodge would be doing. Come back to the Auskick clinics, you idiot. This is such what he'd be telling me. But moving to the next game, West Coast Eagles versus Richmond. Not really too many surprises on this one.
We actually have to talk about, we just skipped past all the phone call stuff. Yeah. Did you see Rioli on the bench turning down the phone? That was the best.
Oh, I felt for him because it's like there's very minimal time the camera will go to the bench, right? And it just happened to be the time that the phone was going to be given to him, and he just gives the wave off. And he ignored it for the first 2 to 3 seconds, knowing well and truly that there was someone asking him to go on the phone. And then they go to hand him it, and he's like, yeah, no, mate, that ain't happening.
It was, it was the fake ignoring, like you don't see it coming. I think it was big Ivan Maric leaning over to say, hey, mate, the coach is on the other end of the phone. Those situations, it was very much like when you know you've done something, or you know that it's not your day, or you know that like you just want to leave me alone for a bit, let me just unwind or whatever. But it was... Yeah, it was funny that it was caught perfectly on camera.
I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Does that happen often? Because I heard Dale Thomas talking on the phone. They said they used to do it all the time back in the day. But he said, can't imagine it happening that much now. If someone was upstairs and they said, Chuck Mace on the phone, you're like, jog on, mate.
I mean, if you're subbed off, right, you have no excuses because you're there for the rest of the game. Now, if you get let's say you come off for the 4-minute stint on the bench, right? And someone goes, oh, here's the phone, I might go, oh, yeah, can't hear anything. Yep, nah, it's not coming through. I've got to run and just put it back up. There's maybe a possibility of getting away with that. But whenever you're a substitute, there's no excuse because you can fix the phone. You can do whatever you want. You're sitting there. You probably have to go and see him at 3/4 time anyway. You're sitting there with the jacket on going, I've just got to cop it.
Yeah.
He's just got to cop it.
That's brutal. I'd be like, just starting to feel a bit of cramp. Got to go for a jog, and then just jog off down the boundary. That's never a good one. Never a good phone call to get. You got to feel for him. But it was one of those games. Richmond, went over and did what was expected. 38-point winners over the West Coast Eagles. A shining light, as always, for the West Coast Eagles. Yep. Not only Oscar Allen, but it was the 500th goal kick by Jack Darling. Now, that's 500 goals.
Fair effort.
That's a fair effort. 1,000 goals.
For some reason, I feel like he gets under the radar a bit, Jack.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's just because they had Josh Kennedy there for a long time, who kind of dominated the headlines as far as goal kicking, and he was there right up there with him in games and kicking just as much as him a lot of the time. So, yeah, maybe he just didn't get the accolades or the attention he probably deserved just because Josh Kennedy kind of, I guess, had a lot more of that go towards his side. But, 500 goals, heck of an accomplishment. Well done.
Chair off or?
Not a chair off. I'd say clap once it happens. It's the same thing as like Pendle's breaking the disposal record, right? You kick it, you get a little bit of extra love, Oh,
yeah, you put it up on the board, up on the screen in the stadium, and a little clap, little golf clap from the crowd. Now, there's not really too much of a standout from a goal kicker perspective. I think pretty much every Richmond player on the list kicked a goal. I think Dimmer came back and he actually slotted one from 50. But it was Dusty, you know, a couple of others, Shai Bolton,
Yeah.
Tim Turano's still, you know, trying to get a kick out there.
Trying to crack that 150, isn't he?
And Dusty, 23 touches, 2 goals. He's been getting those numbers up since he's been pushed up into the midfield, which is good to see. But what's not good to see, Mace, is, you know, his wallet's a little bit lighter because he decided to give one of those, bit of an elbow. How you doing to Witherden, which raises the question, which it's very topical. It happens probably half a dozen times a year, whether it's Patrick Cripps, whether it's Patrick Dangerfield, maybe it's just a Patrick thing. But Dustin Martin, these big name superstar players, they just seem to scraped away with a fine, or, you know, their lawyers up and, they just got off this one. That's amazing. Are they getting the superstar treatment?
I mean, one thing we've always harped on this podcast is if there's something you should learn, it's if you're ever in any kind of, you know, legal strife, call up the Carlton lawyer. That's I mean, that man has gotten that many people off.
Wait, so you don't get in trouble. I'm
not going to say anything.
Let me phrase it like this. Well, the lawyers haven't come after you yet, and you mentioned the Carlton lawyer pretty much every podcast. Yeah. But if one day he doth listen to the podcast, we might be in a little bit of strife. Would you give him a pass just because you want to see him play the next week, or you want to see him play finals? I remember Barry Hall back in the day, Goose Maguire. He just, you know, he full on punched him in the stomach, snapped him in half, and he was laying on the ground. He couldn't breathe for the next week. And they were like, you know, he's got the big final next week. It was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there is a bit of that mentality thinking whenever it's going into finals, or if someone's in a race for the Brownlow or something along those lines. If the AFL
maybe it's in the subconscious.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Because then at the same time, like, you know, whenever umpires, you know, vote for whoever gets the Brownlow votes at the end of the game, like, I wonder if they get the stat sheet and just go, okay, who had the most like statistical, you know, day, rather than who had the most influence. Because you look at it and it's like, okay, well, Darcy Moore could probably have 10 intercepts and he might not get 3 Brownlow votes because Nick Dacos got 40 touches. And it's like, yeah, but Darcy probably won us the game, you know, kind of thing. The
Brownlow's very hard because on top of that, like, the coaches know the tactics that they're employing, and it's like someone might have nailed the game plan, which won the game, but it's like you don't really know what they're doing. So it is, I feel like it's unfair to have that responsibility on the umpires, but at the same time, it's probably they would love that.
Well, who else adjudicates it's the question.
Yeah. Well,
I find it weird that umpires adjudicate it because they shouldn't be really paying attention to who's playing the best on the day. They should be worried about adjudicating the game.
Yeah, which is probably why they might look at the stats sheet after. But I think it's the coaches. But if you then make the most prestigious award the coaches, it's open to, you know, fudge the numbers.
Very true.
So,
very true. Maybe it's a select panel of experienced people within the industry.
Nah, because they make dumb decisions too.
Yeah, I agree. But that's how they do it elsewhere. But a little shout out before we move on to the next game. Now, there's a bit of a retirement for the Richmond player, Robbie Tarrant, who's been playing for a very long time.
Really.
North Melbourne will move to Richmond. He's played 194 games, and he's a good defender. He's one of those pesky defenders, you know, just a little extra, you know, behind the ball.
Smart, Terrence. Both Terrence.
Smart player, and 194 games. So massive congratulations to Robbie in his career, and wish him all the best in the future.
Did you see Chris Tarrant play much?
Never. We'll move on to the Collingwood versus Freo game. I heard he's pretty good. He's a freak, apparently.
Well, he's good when he played for Collingwood, right? When he played for Freo, not that much.
This is the whole thing, though. I was watching Leon Davis highlights. Why am I asked? It's because he's our next guest on the podcast is why, and he's coming on Wednesday afternoon. Do not miss it.
You just dropped that one middle of the episode. That's a big one.
Bang, bang. Leon Davis is coming, baby. But I did see Chris Tarrant kicking it to him a few times. So, and Leon essentially just running circles around everyone else, which was awesome.
Second best arms I've ever seen.
Huge behind Nathan Buckley, I'm assuming.
Just every time I look in the mirror in the morning, mate.
Huge.
Collingwood versus Fremantle. Yep. Now, you played in this one, so you might be able to have some opinions on it.
Huge.
That would be very cool. Nice. Seems you got a podcast and all. Freo, we got to win the first quarter. We got to win the first quarter. We got at least do well. Be competitive. Come on, hit the ground running, Freo. And they did. They did. Come out very close in the first quarter. Second quarter, forgot to worry about that one because they got blown off the park, 10-2 in the second quarter. She was all dead and buried. And then, pretty boring game from then on, if I do say so myself, Mace. But you were out there. You wouldn't notice. You got your head in the game. Jamie Elliott, one of your teammates, I don't know if you know him, but he's on fire.
He is just killing it at the moment.
This young fella, 5 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals. He's got to be up there in the Coleman.
Yeah.
How do you see his game? Because he's just been flinging himself at everything and probably gone under the radar until he's strung together these 3 back-to-back-to-backs.
I feel like sometimes Jamie Elliott, like he gets the leads, right? He gets the leads and he's got to hang like a defender hanging off the back of him. But a lot of times I also feel like as of recent, the ball gets kicked in high and you're looking at the big men to make the contest, right? And they're scrapping, they're wrestling, everything else. The next thing you know, you just see Jamie just float across the front or just jump on someone's head and just somehow come down with this thing. And he's had that many, I feel like, over the last few weeks. And it's a credit to him. He's been playing really well. He's been playing kind of our deepest forward. So a lot of entries probably get thrown his way and he's been able to convert them, which has been definitely helping us and win games. So it's a credit to him. He's playing very well at the moment. We're very excited to see kind of how he can go for the rest of the year.
He's so nimble.
Very nimble, very quick.
Last week, what no one talked about, but I saw it in many highlights. He went up and took a mark, and when he landed, he did the old the step over where he's like looking down at him.
Loved it too.
It was so good.
I've told him a few times.
Just went under the radar. It was very Mason Cox-esque.
It was very much
NBA style.
Finally, epitome is just rubbing off on others.
You can't guard me. Dan McStay returned. Now, everyone's been talking about this Dan McGrate return for
Dan McGrate. We haven't said that in a long time. It's great to hear Dan McGrate back in the team.
Good game for someone that's missed a heck of a lot of footy at the AFL level.
Yeah, he had a little bit of an intro last week at the VFL. Got to get a little bit of experience, as you would say, being back into game mode, and was able to get a game this week and play in the AFL and showed what he's capable of and why we got him over at the Pies now. And it's a unique one because like the fingers are so annoying. Like they're the real just little things that piss you off, and it's you realize it every single day, and I'm sure he's probably got it taped the hell out of now, but you wouldn't know on the weekend. He was marking everything, kicked a few goals, and settled right in.
You need your fingers, mate. You need them.
You need them, yes.
They're pretty pivotal. And it is annoying when you miss with a finger. We know Pendle's fingers look like they're going all different directions.
Jared Witz's fingers, worst I've ever seen, though. Love the man, but dude, it's like 6 different directions for his middle finger. It's gross.
Makes sense when you're a ruckman, though. I don't know. Pendle's just needs to drink some calcium. He just gets his fingers caught in everyone's jumpers and they just snap off.
Matt Cowell. Maybe him and Matt Cowell.
Matt Cowell. Get out there. Get a suckle on the teat. Well, he's the cow, right? That's cows have milk.
Oh, that just got weird.
You're the one that brought it up. You said he's the cow. Well, where do you get milk from, Mace? Where do you get milk?
Just sounded like you said pills should suck on Matt Rowell's
I did say that because that's where you get the milk from. The calcium for the bones, the teat. The cow's got the teat, Mace. Now, the Dacos brothers combined 67 touches, 2 goals, 8 tackles, 14 clearances. Do you need any other midfielders? Just chuck them in there. Let them go to town.
Oh, they're absolutely killing it. I think at one point during the game, Nick had gone out of the middle and he'd burst out of the middle and he ends up hitting a hit-up lead to Tay, I want to say, like across the body, like completely across the field. And I was just sitting there and I was behind playing. I didn't even see it. And I'm sitting there like, I've got the whole view. This guy's getting chased with like 2 people behind him. He's got the ball in his hand trying to make all these decisions. And he ends up finding a person I can't even find whenever I'm walking behind the play trying to sort all this other shit out. It is phenomenal. After he did that, I walked up to him and Tay's going back for the set shot. And I just walked up behind him. I was going, you're a freak, right? Just nothing. Doesn't want to admit it. He's too humble. I'm like, dude, just give me a little.
Some would say, not I, but he's got the vision of Lionel Messi. Like it just opens up in front of him and he can kind of see it all. Brandon Walker, the sad story out of it for Freo. Patella tendon just ripped out, which is, it's not good. He went down.
Green whistle and everything. It's a tough thing to see whenever you see the green whistle get put in the mouth.
Oh, it's it's
a bit of pain.
Unfortunate, and prayers up for him.
Prayers up. That's our prayers up.
And hopefully, he's fast. He's got this pace and stuff. You hope that's not affected. So hopefully a quick recovery for him and we'll see him out there sometime soon. And another injury, big one, big in, size and, what it means to the team. Sean Darcy.
I remember just jogging back and I hear him like screaming behind the play.
That's not good. You don't want to hear that.
That's Sean Darcy's voice for sure. And he's a big man. He wouldn't scream for no reason, and then kind of saw him hobble off. And then I think it was whenever, Brandon Walker got injured and we had a bit of time and I was sitting there, I looked over at their bench. I didn't see him on the bench. And I thought, the big man might be done. Oh, it's time to lap it up. Might be a plumber today.
I bet Plumber, get out there.
Started raining.
Oh.
Go, "Oi." Sounds like there's some pipes that need cleaning.
No, wait, that's a different metaphor. That's completely
Jeez,
different.
we've gotten weird on this podcast.
Now, I'm surprised there weren't more injuries with Braden Maynard running around like a madman, just burying
Good to see him
people.
back. Good to see him back. 1 week off, and he goes and starts murdering people again.
Oh my God. I was really surprised that old Sonny Walters got up and, was able to walk again because he just
Body slammed him.
killed him.
Oh.
Just went back to back on the tackles. He's just out there to hurt. If he's like, I'm in pain with my shoulder, so you need to be in pain with your body and your life and everything, your soul.
It was so good to see. And I think it was the 2 tackles in a row with WWE style where he just bashed one into the ground, got right back up, did it again. And then there's another point where he tackled someone, got back up, then tackled another person, got back up, then somehow smarted the ball out of bounds. It was just like one thing after another with him. And he's an energetic. He's a bit of a firecracker for our team. There's no doubt about that. And it was good to see it. Good to have him back after a week off. And he definitely shows his importance to the team. That's for sure.
Now, how many people are at the game, Mace? Because you're getting pretty close to these million fans.
I'm not sure what the official number was, but there's a big accomplishment if we haven't accomplished it already. 1 million fans over the year that Collingwood has been able to play in front of, which is pretty cool.
It's insane. A
Think
million fans.
people. That's crazy to me.
I went to one of them.
Hey, you're one of 1 million.
That's what they tell me,
That's what
Mace.
your mom keeps telling you. I want to talk about something else before we get into Brett Roseberry. So now the Freo jumper.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was
decision.
weird because I was thinking, why aren't they wearing the all white?
Yeah. I mean, I was running around and for the first little chunk, I was like looking around peripheral wise, like, I don't know who's on what team.
Yeah, it was clashy. So for those that didn't see it, Freo wore their stock standard purple up the top and then the white shorts. When they have a perfectly good and like it's a nice looking kit, the all white.
All white. I guess all white's for a home game though, wouldn't it be?
Well, they're the purple haze, mate. So we're
That's
all
true.
purple for the home game. So you'd
Good
think
point.
they'd wear the all white for their away game, especially when it had a bit of a clash. But are you saying like
It was very weird. I feel like at times you could tell someone would look up and look like they're about to kick to someone, and the next thing you'd realize they go, "Oh no, that's not my teammate." Like I think there was one point, I think it was like Bo or someone like kicked an inside 50 straight to a Freo player, and I'm pretty sure he was thinking he was a Collingwood player, no doubt.
It happens every year. There's always one or two. That's why you
And
need.
he would be pissed right now. That's all I'm saying.
That's why-
And he'd be sitting there going, "You effing kidding me?"
That's why you have the Hawthorn Power Ranger outfit, the shiny gold number.
Oh my gosh.
Not a lot of clashing with brown and yellow, Mace.
We need to do like the top 5 worst jumpers that have ever been.
I'm a big fan of the old Freo with the green. You know, the blocking, the green purple anchor.
Oh, the anchor, yes, the
Yeah.
anchor one. I like the one that's actually got the sailor on it.
The sail,
Whatever the hell you
the
call it.
docker.
The Docker guy.
Yeah.
That's quite embarrassing. But the other thing that was big from the game, 500 games, which is a huge accomplishment and crazy to think about 500 games this man has umpired. Brett Roseberry, there's a bit of talk after the game, and we had organized for both teams to essentially watch him come off the ground. He doesn't get chaired because he's an umpire, I guess. I'm not really sure how that was organized, but 500.
He didn't get booed off the ground, so
No,
that's
I didn't.
good.
That's
right?
probably the first time he hasn't. People here tend to hate umpires for any reason they can think of.
People around the world hate umpires, mate.
It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. That's a lot of people take for granted the fact that there are people that adjudicate stuff and have to keep people in line, but they don't get a lot of love.
Do umpires only umpire one game a weekend?
Yes, usually. Now, I think during COVID, there's a few things chopped and changed just because of availability in different areas. But yeah, usually it's one a game.
So that would do a lot of Ks, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Oh, mate, ridiculous amount. But now because they've brought in an extra umpire onto the ground, they have to do less, which I know talking to a few umpires, obviously Razor Ray is a big fan of the podcast. If you haven't listened to his episode, go back and check it out. But
Little legs from Razor. It's a lot of ground to cover.
and he's getting a bit older, and I think the bounce is getting to him a little bit. He's not as limber as he used to be.
The field doesn't get smaller.
It does not, but you can cover less ground if there's more umpires on the ground. So I think that's what the AFL is trying to do, and they're trying to blood some more people because I feel like the umpiring community, right, it's a bit old. bit aged at the moment. They're a bit aged at the moment as far as their experience is all in the, they've got a lot of experience there, don't get me wrong, but I think there's going to be a massive amount of umpires that will come out of the league in the next 5 years that's going to take away a lot of experience for the younger guys coming through. So to have more umpires on the field at once is going to be a good thing for the game, I think.
Oh, it's always a good thing, mate. Get the umpires out there, the good ones. Get the good ones out there. Scrap the bounce. But
scrap the bounce.
That's another thing.
Scrap the bounce.
Another thing we're going to have to talk about, we're looking at this forward line. We've got a lot of forwards in there, the Collingwood team. Jeez, there's some slots.
The boys a bit nervous this week.
It's always a good problem to have, they say, Mace, is to have all the players. They're all fighting for spots. We'll see how we go. I want to bring up a couple of big games next week. We got Essendon Bulldogs, big one for the top 8 ramifications because one of those teams has got to come out of there. We got Brisbane Geelong really finding form. Brisbane back to the Gabba
though, at the Fortress.
Back to the Fortress. Can they consolidate? Can they get another win and reload and go again? Port Collingwood. Now, I don't know why that's down there for big games. Is that a big game, is it? Port v Collingwood. 1-2
at Adelaide. A lot of people are hyping up to be a big game, yes.
That's pretty big. For this week only, stuff you, Kenny.
Hey, I'm still a fan of Kenny. You know what? Before the game, I'm hoping he's listening or he's listened to that podcast where we talked about the dab.
There's not that many times you're going to be able to, find a little slot that it's okay to dap up the opposition coach on game day. But if anyone can do it, Mace, you'll be doing it.
I'll be out on the field scoping out very early.
I've got $1 on you going for the hug.
Oh, huge.
I feel like Kenny's going to watch and he's going to know and he's going to go in for the hug.
What if he just goes open arms? Oh,
from like 20 meters away.
You know what I'd do? I'd pick him up. I'd pick you up, old Kenny. We do a jig together.
And then Melbourne, Adelaide. There were question marks about Melbourne, but I think they've answered them in a span of 2 weeks, and Adelaide really fallen off. So can they come back?
There's also a massive initiative happening throughout Victoria, and TAC and AFL Victoria are having road safety rounds, and it's a very important cause because it honors those that have lost their life on the road by wearing a blue armband at netball clubs and football clubs across Victoria. It's important to remember whenever we're driving, if you're listening to this podcast, stay off your phone. I know you're listening probably through your phone, but it's very important to be watching what's around you. Very important to be keeping yourself safe and also the people around you. So I know a lot of football clubs and netball clubs around Victoria wearing these amazing blue armbands. I want to give a massive, massive shout out to them because it is such an important initiative out there. And I know, Braden, you've had a bit of a personal experience yourself on this.
Far too many people dying on our roads, Mace, and some family members of mine. So keep your family members safe, your friends safe, your teammates safe. Do the right thing. Band together this weekend with the Vic Roads Initiative. Put your little blue bands on and play your role. Drive safe on our roads. Put your phones down. Drive safe on our roads.
It's so important. I know it's probably something that we all have that inclination to reach over into the passenger seat and just have a look at maybe the notification that's popped up. But it is one of those things. If you look half a second away from the road in front of you, you never know what might pop out and it might cause a wreck. So make sure you're fully attentive whenever you're out driving and make sure you're looking after the people, not only yourself, like I said, but also those around you. And it's so important. So great to see IFL, Victoria, and TAC getting around this round, and we're excited to be a supporter in this.
Also, interesting ladder just starting to form. We all know it. The Suns 1 game outside the 8. Carlton a chance to, go 1 game out, but they got West Coast this week, so could be a big, also, percentage booster.
Yeah, percentage booster, massive, could be.
And then we got Saints, Essendon Dogs on the slide, and they take up 6th, 7th, 8th. And then my boys, the Greater Western Sydney Giants, coming home strong, currently in 9th, got the game against Stuart Dew's old team, the Gold Coast Suns, so that's going to be a big one. Are the Suns going to keep bouncing back? GWS going to just keep on trucking?
Who knows? The Battle of the Orange.
The Battle of the Orange. That's the battle of the new teams. It's but that's a week coming up in footy, but it's going to be an absolutely big one. Collingwood v Port over in Adelaide. Got the job earlier in the year, but that was before Port went on this absolute steamroller. Exactly. So we wait and see what happens. And they're going to be scathing after their big loss to Carlton. They'll probably get all the boys back. I'll be booing Horn Francis at the TV. Got to bring him down, mate. But that's it for another awesome podcast, Mason.
It is. Well done. It's a lot going on this week and plenty of excitement as we go into the back end of the year and this ladder starts to get sorted out. And like you said, that was those last 5 spots in the 8, they're up for grabs.
As the fire starts to burn, mate.
As the fire starts to burn. I'll let you clip that one in. But anyway, thanks everyone for listening in. Absolute legends, like we mentioned in the podcast. Leon Davis joining us. I didn't ask him about that, though. Apparently he doesn't like that nickname.
Neon.
So I didn't bring it up. I read that in some kind of media thing. But Leon Davis. He's coming in on Wednesday, and he's got some great stories he shares with us. An absolute legend.
Learned a lot in that podcast.
Learns a lot. He's a man, a very, very knowledgeable man. Loves this culture, very much into it, and something I think a lot of people will learn a lot from. So make sure you listen out for that one coming out Wednesday afternoon. It's going to be a ripper, as I say. And he's, like I said, he's a great man and someone I'm very fortunate to have known over my life. So listen in for that one. But that's it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will speak to you soon. Peace.
Yeah.